update on Bakhmut and Vuhledar battles on the 1-year anniversary of the start of the Russian-Ukrainian war. But before we get into that, this is Crisis Report. And to keep these reports coming, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks, everyone. Yes, it is a cold, bitter winter, I am sure, for so many people in Ukraine. It has been a year since the start of the major Russian invasion. Yes, back in 2014, we saw a lot of other actions going on, so this is a longer continuing conflict, but the immediate war of the major invasion, 1 year to date on the date of recording this. Right. Now, we're going to look at defense intelligence update on Ukraine from the British military Ministry of Defense. I like this as a source. Again, on this channel, I very much give my sources for my information so you can understand what's going on. It's not just because I'm saying it, but here's where I'm getting the information from. Over the last 48 hours, this is as of the 23rd of February, heavy fighting has continued in the Bakhmut sector, where Ukrainian forces are keeping resupply routes open to the west despite Russia's creeping encirclement. Well, let's look at a little bit of that. And I want to give a shout out to Chuck Farfer here. Follow his account on Twitter. This is where I'm getting some of my maps and updates from. I just want to cover that. I'm using his work, but if you want to, and he updates things a lot, if you want to take a look at that, you should follow, like I say, on Twitter. Right, key developments. RU forces continue operations against the UKR lines of communication and supply. UKR forces are in contact in northern suburbs of Bakhmut, north and south of Highway 32. RU has redoubled efforts to capture villages I'm not going to try to pronounce and show my lack of good pronunciations of them. But we can see here that they're trying to push around. From my analysis of looking at a lot of videos, and I'm sure many of you have looked at videos, they are showing you one small part of the battlefield, the war, the whatever, where the camera is focused on. Often these videos are shot from drones. And the big question I have is, how many drones does, Ukrainian forces have? They can have a lot, but Ukraine is big. And if they've concentrated their drone forces that are spotting and targeting, as we know that NATO has stated that current Ukrainian consumption of artillery shells is higher, daily consumption is higher than the daily production of all NATO nations combined currently. So they are burning through our NATO's ammunition supplies. Now, fortunately, we do have other possible conflicts right now, but Russia, I'm sure, does not have huge stockpiles either, ready to, oh, hey, NATO's out of ammunition, we can invade now. But this will be a long-term critical situation where they need to ramp up production of artillery shells to replace both for Ukraine as well as NATO forces. But when you have the drones and when you have artillery, as we can see in a lot of the pictures here, you can target very effectively enemies, whether armored or infantry. I am presuming to some degree that the reason the Russians are pushing around the flanks, well, obviously it's to take out their ability to resupply. But if this area is where drone activity is heaviest, they're trying to hit places where they're not being watched, is what I'm presuming. And to get the overall picture here is why. Here is Bakhmut, down here is Vuhledar. We will be talking about that. Major rail and road links come through here, and that is why the town is important. A little more detailed map again, Bakhmut Vuhledar here, and we can see through here some of the various rail lines moving around. And these will give you why certain cities are strategic for long-term supply situations. You will need major roads, major railways to supply a modern mechanized forces. So keep that in mind whenever we're looking at these battles. Now, if the Ukrainians, which all reports have been, are and we'll get to that, are causing significant losses for the enemy, both in equipment and personnel. They're punishing them, even if they have to eventually fall back. I hope, if this becomes untenable, I hope they fall back and don't do a last stand at this particular city if they do start to really get enveloped. But this gives you an idea of the situation there. Now, further south in the Donetsk Oblast region, the town of Vuhledar has again experienced heavy shelling. There is a realistic possibility that Russia is preparing for another offensive effort in this area, despite failed costly attacks in February and late 2020. Here's sort of the interesting news that really caught for both of these things. Russia's eastern group of forces will likely, or still likely, responsible for the Vuhledar operation. And when they're referring to that, they're referring to eastern, southern. This confuses me why this is also southern. Is this the same southern command that's, I don't know, in central I get up here. So, but this again is the operating forces here, and meaning that these guys are probably still in command of the Vuhledar operation. Its commander, Colonel General Rustam Muradov, is likely under intense pressure to improve results following harsh criticisms from the Russian nationalist community after previous setbacks. However, it is unlikely that Muradov has a striking force capable of achieving a breakthrough. Now, here is why that this may be just from Yahoo News, but I quote from the General Staff. Troops from the so-called, I'm not sure General Staff of where, but so-called volunteer Cossack Detachment attached to the 155th Marine Brigade of the Russian Pacific Fleet. Now, they're awfully far from the Pacific, but are refusing to continue to take part in the offensive operations due to the failure of the offensive and significant personnel losses near Vuhledar. We have seen a lot, if you look at it, a lot of images showing or video showing attacks on there. This is my understanding, again, just I'm taking other people's word for it, is an aerial photo of sort of, I mean, there's some industrial something over there, grains, silo towers or something, I don't know, but downtown Vuhledar, I guess, as you will call it here. One of the reports, there's less than 500 people left in the town, according to the mayor, as of, last 48 or so hours from reports. The rest have presumably fled, hopefully, The rest, of course, are soldiers. Just to give you an idea of the battlefield here, that the towns are significant cover and concealment. Both things are effective from drone attacks. You know, where are the troops in there? Very hard to identify compared to where are the troops out there, you know, relatively speaking. Don't come at me. Well, we've seen drone footage would find them. Yeah, you would, but compared to the rest of the battlefield, it is significantly built up. Areas like this absorb many troops trying to clear them out. So that is an important effect here. But this town ultimately is not what is important in the big picture. It's things like that. The roads, the railroads. We can look here. We can see the roads. Now, I think they're just trying to collapse part of the front to allow a, you know, an exploitable push, meaning, you know, mechanized lunge forward to come up and, you know, strike around these other regions. So that should give you an idea of the sort of strategic and tactical situation here on the front right now, 1 year in. I would say at this moment, Russia is not winning the war based upon their goals and objectives on starting the war or the invasion. And we can talk about Donetsk Oblast and the long-term operations in there well before, you know, more than 10 years now. But the more immediate front, the failure to take Kiev, the failure to install a Russian puppet government. They have been able to get a land bridge, if you will, down to Crimea, control the northern, to Crimea, and a little ways beyond control the Black Sea coastline. Odessa, yes, is still in Ukrainian hands, but the rest, you know, yes, Odessa way over here, but the rest has been able to, especially, of course, the Sea of Azov, to control that. They've been able to get these objectives, but this is a major failure on the part of Russia. I don't know what their abilities will be to sustain major operations in the coming year. There's a lot of propaganda going from both sides as to, oh, yeah, our side is doing great and wonderful. Yeah. But I try to cut through that no matter what side, you know, I do support Ukraine, but I'm trying to understand the actual situation here. So that's the way it stands now, 1 year in. I think the two major current fighting is on Bakhmut and Vuhledar fronts here that of interest. Now they may just be pinning attacks for maybe very soon to come other major thrusts. If I were the Russians, I would be planning those, presumably. Otherwise, I would be trying to negotiate something, you know, like, hey, give back all this light pink, we'll take the darker red here. Can we, you know, peace out at that? Or something, you know, I would be trying to negotiate. But then again, I'm a reasonable person and not some Russian dictator, you know, even if I, you know, whatever. You get it. If I was on their side and not doing well, I would be trying to find a solution. So, again, thank you all for making it this far into the video. If you have any questions, tips, suggestions, comments, criticisms, please post them below. I do want to answer them and improve my coverage here of crises around the world. Thanks, everyone.